We still have a couple of minutes, so you can check the Twitter feed from the previous talk and other things going on. Good.
How did you start it? Oh. Can we go back? Weird. Why did he decide to start it? Yeah, did you flip it into a presentation mode that he wasn't expecting? Did you make changes after? I'm just wondering, we could use mine instead. Although, luckily it's a Mac, so it boots quickly. Got a pointer back, though. Okay, this is why we should have had your machine up here for practice earlier. We could run the slides off mine. Okay, new plan. Yeah, I haven't seen that happen before.
Right. So Apple Keynote was playing some jokes on us. But
Yeah.
but I think we're okay. We're ready to go.
Fine on my computer.
Very good.
Fury is cursed. Sorry. So we're just going to talk for a few minutes about FontLab VI and focus in particular on spacing and kerning and a few related things. We'll probably have time at the end to answer some other questions and may show one or two other things, whatever excites people. The spacing and kerning, I think, exemplifies a couple of things about the philosophy behind FontLab VI, which is that FontLab VI is not about, like FontLab Studio 5, it's not about we have one vision of how you should do things and there's one true way and you should do things our way. It's more about allowing different workflows, and we certainly have some ideas about what at least one really good workflow is, but if you have ways that you like to work, we try to enable those. That includes maintaining FontLab Studio 5 workflows where that's feasible. The other thing about the philosophy as applied to metrics in particular, of course, is that the big change is to have in-place editing in the metrics tab. So yeah, you can take your pick of approaches, imitate FontLab Studio 5. You can also space and kern much like metrics machine. The interface is super customizable. You can add tracking just for view-only purposes to see what it would look like tracked, or use actions to make that tracking permanent. And we're not going to spend more than another 20 seconds on slides, don't worry. This is what we're going to look at for metrics, the interface, and what you can do with it. Similarly with kerning. And that said, we will switch back again.
Okay.
Which is why we were originally going to do it all on one machine.
Because we'll be showing the build that is currently shipping. So you can download, you can go to fontlab.com/vi and just grab it and try it yourself. For both Mac and Windows, we're showing the Mac version, but the Windows version is identical, except that it looks a bit different because it's Windows.
So let's start looking at metrics. Select some glyphs.
And
just click on the metrics tool, and you immediately have a window. Now, Yuri was just clicking. I'm going to make you slow down a sec. So there's a couple of interface elements here. Show metrics, show kerning, show mark attachment, and there's a sidebar where you can also just enter text, so you don't have to just select glyphs up front if you want to. And you see on the sidebar also things like layout features. And you want to pull up the...
What?
So in the metrics tab, you can also see the side bearings and advanced width at the same time. Over on the right, there's a couple of other handy panels that you can use. Currently, this is set to, the pairs and phrases panel is currently set to texts. And you want to switch that over, Yuri?
What do you mean?
The pairs and phrases?
What?
Oh, I meant to flip that to...
Well, this is just a way where you choose the text for doing any spacing.
Yeah, but I was just saying that you can switch it from text to pairs, like so.
Oh.
And then it looks at the pairs that are already in there.
But you don't really need the table to access your pairs. You just use your keyboard. And
you can go either way.
And you browse it, and then you choose your glyph for editing. And then basically you can change your spacing very easily. Or with keyboard, you can simply hide it and then add some spacing, align your glyph. Center it. Or if you did something crazy with your spacing, you just auto space. That's easy.
You can also, so there's full keyboard controls for dealing with side bearings, left side bearing, right side bearing, shifting the glyph within the advanced width, or changing both left and right at the same time, and modifier keys to do it by 10 or 100 or whatever. So let's see.
So integrated auto spacing is just on the keyboard. You click OK. I think I can highlight the keys. Okay. So if I damaged my spacing badly, I just hit a semicolon key and it fixes it automatically. No need to do anything. So what do I want to show next?
You want to talk about actions and locked metrics?
Well, locked metrics is an interesting thing. Imagine that you want to, you know how your metrics are set. So instead of just setting some values for your metrics, you may say that they are fixed to certain value. So then, when I'll change the outline, the metrics eventually will follow, so I don't need to adjust them anyhow. Yeah. And also, you may put some expressions to your metrics, of course. So you may say that right side bearing is actually a left side bearing. So then, yeah, it should somehow fix it.
It's not auto-updating.
Yeah, because it's fixed.
Oh, right, because you locked the side bearings, so
Yeah.
obviously they're not updating. John, you have a question?
If you're locking the side bearings, is it possible to lock them at a measurement line height?
Yeah, yeah. Everything
Yeah.
is calculated according to either just simple outline and bounding boxes as usual, or it can be calculated according to the measurement line, or if you have slanted font, you may use slanted side bearings, and it will calculate it by the slanted side bearings plus optionally a measurement line. So it's very flexible.
So,
Actually, one thing that we missed while showing the metrics panel is the tracking thing, which is quite useful when you want to check how your font will behave in some compressed situation. So we may say that you still can edit your metrics, but it will render as if some tracking was applied in InDesign or any other app. And you can, of course, there's an action to apply this tracking for just to fix your metrics and apply the tracking to some value.
let's look back at the linked metrics some more. You were just starting to show, making the O right side bearing look like the left.
Yeah, you might have a references in a metrics just by typing reference to the glyph instead of value. But you also can do it automatically. So for example, I might just go to the font, say that I want to link glyph metrics, and I can define some key glyphs to which metrics will be referenced. And it will do some optical analysis of the shape of the glyph and then try to make these references, which we can see now in the table.
And there is a tolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can set how much tolerance you
So
want
if
to use.
it
doing
finds that certain characters on the left is similar to some other characters, it will automatically link them. It's been applied to only the selected characters, so only the characters that you select, only the glyphs that you select in the font, or to the whole font. So, sorry. So if I get my A's for metrics, yeah, I have these references right here. So then if I change the side bearing, and then I need to manually update metrics because it's kind of slow thing. Then all the referenced glyphs will be automatically updated.
You can have it auto-update if you want, but
Yeah, but
by
it's kind
default
of-
that preference is
It
off.
slows down the editing because if you have huge font with many characters, and since these expressions can be really complicated, so you may not only reference from one glyph to another, but you actually can write an expression. So you may say that in some particular character, you want to set left side bearing equal to the average of side bearings of some other characters, and that will be calculated automatically. No problem. So that's quite powerful thing. No, we look on the glyphs.
So it's an optical analysis
Yeah,
on the glyph shape.
yeah. Actually, we really focusing in many cases. We really focus on names, on Unicode indexes, on some other ways to identify glyphs. But the best way to identify glyphs is its shape. So wherever we can with FontLab 6, we are not looking on the name or Unicode. We're just looking on the shape and applying some algorithms to check how the shape looks and what properties does it have. And then we use this data to do certain things, including metrics. I would like to show some other things, but we are talking about metrics today.
So should we move on to kerning?
Yep. So doing kerning is the same, simple. Select something, what you want to do, click on the kerning button. And actually, the truth is that compared to FontLab 5, there is no such thing anymore as metrics window or metrics tab or whatever. Metrics tab and kerning tab and outline editing tab is the same thing. You just activate different tools. So when I'm doing kerning editing here, and I want to adjust my glyph a little, I just activate the edit tool, and yeah, I can do something with it.
Yeah, we kind of twisted Yuri's arm rather hard to force him to put on the window menu an option for a new metrics tab. What it is it just creates a window that happens to have certain options preset and so on, but you could actually totally do the exact same things within any, you know, on the pasteboard as well. You know, you do it anywhere. It's an illusion of modality, as it were.
So for modifying kerning, you also have many ways to do that. You may use table, kerning table, and just type in some values in the table. So you just can enter something here. Or you can drag your pair easily with the mouse or with this thing. Or you can just use your keyboard to adjust the pair. And if I go up and down, I am browsing my pairs list, which I can prepare somewhere and open. So it's basically you use your four arrow keys to adjust the kerning. And you may specify how far your pair should be moved when you click on the arrow key. So it could be just
and
one unit.
There's the usual modifier keys too, and their preferences for how much those move things. Also, by default, it's always assuming that you're doing full class kerning. So if the glyphs involved are members of classes, it's doing class-to-class kerning. You can use modifier keys to turn off the class for either the left or the right or both.
Yeah, there are two keys, Control and Alt. If I hold Alt key, I turn off the right class. If I hold the Control key, I turn off the left class. So currently I will be making an exception, or I will be kerning a class. It's very easy. If it's too simple to kill, there is this option you can choose the current model right here. So currently it says that it will kern class and class or pair and pair, glyph and glyph. So it's a very simple thing to do.
Can you say a few words on what's the difference between the kerning panel and the pairs panel?
Well, yeah, the kerning panel, it shows what's in the font currently.
So it shows the pairs that have been actually defined for the font.
Yeah,
The pairs panel, on the other hand, is showing a preset list of combinations that you were interested in, or that someone thought you might be interested in, depending on where you're getting that list from.
So pairs panel shows you the future, the plan that you need to have. Also, it shows you the current values. If you are not satisfied with it, you can just auto-kern with this button. It's very simple. But also in the kerning panel, it highlights if you have a class kerning, a pair between classes or pair between class and a glyph, and you have an exception, it shows it in red, and you can expand it and see the exceptions for that pair. So you can choose one of them and adjust them. Or here, if I see that something is wrong with certain pair, with a certain class pair, I can just double-click it and easily adjust it. Or can double-click and get back. So it's very simple. It's very visual.
Have we looked at
the pairs panel
Yes, I
basically
was just about to say the pairs.
is a kind of a to-do list, but it also can do Well, it supports. It was inspired by Metrics Machine, and it even supports the same file formats for the pairs, so you can see the pairs in context and browse through them. And basically, you make yourself a plan, and then you go through these phrases and kern something. Then you see the kern value, but you see that in the pairs panel there are these entries that aren't kerned. So these pairs aren't kerned. These are the ones that you want to look at.
And also in the kerning and pairs panels, and pretty much in every other panel or window in FontLab, you have a search or filter thing. So for example, if I want to find the pairs that have a glyph on the left, I just type in A and asterisk. And then I see everything that's on the left. Or I'm looking for a pair that contains A and T, it's in the class, so it's very easy to find. And that thing, you can put in the name, or you can just put in the Unicode characters, and if you have the glyph that is linked to that character, it will it will open it. So to access, for example, Cyrillic or Greek characters, you don't need to enter these strange names.
I love the thing where you can enter the two particular glyphs, and it will show you which classes are involved automatically.
There's the notion of key glyphs from
Right.
Is that
So,
completely gone?
yeah,
Yep.
there are no key glyphs anymore. That's completely gone.
So you might,
So you can either, when you're kerning, you're either kerning classes or you're kerning individual glyphs, and it's up to you. But there's no key glyph. It was always kind of a artificial construct that got in the way.
yeah, we had to add class kerning at some point, and there was no engine for that, so we
Any
did a trick with
issues
the key
with
glyphs.
opening VFBs that have those old classes? You just
No, they just
transfer
come
Yeah,
in.
it will
The
convert
key
it.
glyph is no longer a key glyph anymore, but all the
But it will create a
data
class
is
and read the
preserved.
class pair based on the glyph, and also read all exceptions, of course.
yeah.
With generating VFB out of FontLab 6, it's getting more complicated because in some cases you may have conflicting situations, but
The problem is we can do things in 6 you couldn't do in 5. So
yeah. And well,
Maybe I can mention one more thing that is that of course, let's say this link metrics, it has a certain built-in routine, but of course you can use Python. The API is not yet published, but we're sort of working on it.
well, actually I have 3 APIs there.
Yes, and you can use, because the FontLab 6 will, or already supports, but will support 2 sort of native file formats, VFC, which is binary, but also VFJ, which is a JSON file. You can basically save your project as a JSON, as the VFJ, the JSON file, and just, open it in a text editor and set up your linked metrics there, or have some scripts that do that. So basically, if you're more into the data view, we've chosen the JSON format because it sort of turns out to be more popular. It's nicely compact, but it's still human readable, etc.
do you want to show the classes panel?
Oh, I just did. I already closed it.
Right. And the other thing to show briefly is the kerning switch as to whether we're viewing the raw kerning in the file or the compiled kerning.
Yeah, that is in the features. If you open the sidebar of a Glyph window, you can activate features. So, and one of these features is kern. So if I activate it, then the kern, yeah, something else is working.
I can explain this. So normally when you're viewing the kerning that is currently in the FontLab file. If you turn on the features and turn on the kern feature, you're viewing any kerning that was compiled previously in the font. So this could be different in the case where the compiled kern, you open a font, you read in the compiled kerning, and you make some changes, and you do a bunch more. You could essentially use this to flip and see what was in it before.
Yes, you can generate the kern feature, and by the way, we have the sort of the Carsten Lucas great algorithm for the sort of optimization of the kern feature. So basically, this subtable break problem that bothered many people in different kind of tools. That's definitely gone because that algorithm basically generates the kern feature, but of course you can have other ways to generate the kern feature, maybe add some contextual lookups to it or whatever, and then you compile, and then if you activate the kern feature there, the half-bus engine that we're using will show the final result.
Yeah, so it's possible to preview in FontLab and even to tweak stuff and view it in the app, even if you've tweaked it elsewhere.
I'm not seeing a visualization of whether a class is a first class or a second class.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little thing here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's a tiny icon. Scroll down because you.
Oh, I see. Okay. So
now you're seeing the second classes. They're
you.
different
And
colors.
it's also the prefix.
Yeah, there's also filters, so you may also look for classes that contain certain glyphs.
So right now, that's the border between the ones that are all first class and the ones that are all the second class right there. Beep. So it's a little small on the screen.
Yeah, if you select two of them, it will show you the pair. So you may preview your classes even or just as they are or with combinations, even without doing anything on the edit window. Let me close this thing. Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I really like about FontLab 6 is this measurement line that I can, it's just global guideline, font guideline, but if I double click on it, I can really measure what's going on, and I can check the real distance, the black to black distance between certain glyphs in any place I want. And this thing is live, so whether I'm editing the shape, so then yeah, it updates and shows me the thing.
So what I'd like to do now, I think we've covered everything that we felt we absolutely had to do. And of course, we still have plenty of time. So first, any questions about metrics, kerning, any of that stuff? Anybody? Over here.
Besides in the title of the lower right panel, so the to-do pairs, I see also phrases in the title.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Okay, so
it's just a set of sample strings.
okay, so they are not mixed. There's a switch between the two views.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So depending on which mode you are in, if you're in a spacing mode, you usually need to have a longer strokes of text. Actually, you're not forced to use any of these methods. So this is more like FontLab 5 method of doing things. So you may put in your texts, and then you can easily choose them. So while you're in a metrics mode, if you click on arrow down key, you're just switching to the next text.
and it is available also in the kerning mode, I assume.
Yeah, it also can be used in a kerning mode. So we don't force you to use either of the ways.
Okay.
You may choose which mode you want to work with. Either it's a pair mode where you have actually the text that is used to create the pairs. That is quite complicated thing, though. So it not only can be a list of pairs, but it also can be a list of the context words, and you may specify with the vertical bar which is the pair that you want to highlight. So if I choose this word, I will have the word avatar, and the pair will be set to a T pair in the middle. And so you may create this text as you want. They're very easy to import, or you just can copy paste.
Thanks.
other questions? I see someone? Nope.
Well, I have a question about the keyboard shortcuts. So could you, because you showed very quickly that you can sort of left align, right align, auto kern, center, but also modify. Could you just show, especially in a spacing mode, what these shortcuts actually are?
So to add some spacing on both sides of the glyph, we just use plus and minus keys on the keyboard, no modifiers. Of course, with shift it will be faster, with command it will be zoom, because it's command plus. So, but you can customize the value. It could be 1 unit, 10 units, 50 units. I set default to 10 units, and it could be anything.
It's in preferences.
Yeah, with shift it goes faster. If I want to left align my glyph, I just use left square bracket for that, or right align, that is right square bracket, or curly bracket actually.
Yes, and
That's
these
very
keys,
simple.
if you're in outline mode and you select some nodes in the outline tool, you select some nodes, you can use these keys to align the nodes. If you're in the elements tool, which is kind of like composites, you can use these keys to align the elements. And in metrics, you align the glyph to...
Yeah, the vertical bar will center, obviously. So it's very, if you look on a keyboard, it's very natural. So you have 2 curly brackets and a vertical bar. It's left, right, and center. Also, you may auto-space your glyph. It's semicolon key. You just click it and it's happening. You don't do anything else. If you're not satisfied, just add some space or reduce some space. So
it's kind of like a quick default.
Yeah. So your way of spacing in FontLab 5 is quite different, or in FontLab 6 is quite different to what it used to be in FontLab 5, because you don't have to use your mouse. You just browse your text, and it could be quite long text, and then you add some space, reduce some space, auto space. And you also can, of course, you can adjust right side bidding and left side bidding. So if you look on a keyboard, you have Alt and Control key. Alt is at the right, that means it controls right side bidding. Left, controls on the left, it controls the left side bidding. So Alt arrow will modify right side bidding. Control arrows will modify the left side bidding. That's it. It's very easy to do.
If you press both.
Yeah,
If you press both, you'll move your glyph between your side biddings. That's very easy. So the same trick applies to the kerning, but it's just easier because you use your arrow keys to adjust the pair, shift, control. It's very natural. And alt and control, alt at the right and control at the left, they define what you are kerning. Is it a group pair or class pair, or it's if it's an individual glyph pair. That's
so of course, if you're looking at 2 glyphs that are not in any groups or classes, then basically whatever you press, it will be the same. It will always modify the glyph to glyph pair. But if you have glyphs that are in classes, and we started using them, calling them classes again. We sort of called them groups for some reason, but then said no, it's actually classes. It always.
And that little red triangle, it's a font audit applied to the kerning. So if it sees that the kern pair value that is defined in the font is too different to what auto kerning algorithm will suggest, it will highlight it. So it disappears, appears again. It's not really a precise thing. It's just a hint that something is wrong in the pair.
So, any other questions
Yes.
on this?
Regarding kerning, have you tested that a game controller can be connected to it and used in the same way that a lot of people is using with metric machine?
Well, your game controller will just initiate some event. And if that event is connected to the arrow key, that will be the same as hitting the arrow key. It's a simple thing. So actually, another way to kern is this element. So this is just a number, but you still can use arrow keys to adjust it, or shift arrow keys. Huh? Can you?
Can also
Yeah, you can also scroll.
So
you can
up
also
and
adjust
down,
stuff.
yes, up and down keys.
Yeah,
if
you can go into the
if
tables
you
and do
activate
it there
a
too.
pair, so
Yeah.
here the values, yeah. There's a mix between class pair and individual pair. So you may do a kerning without opening the kerning panel, just in a kerning, without opening the kerning tab, just to use by using the kerning table.
If you know for some reason, if you have foreknowledge of exactly what those values should be, you don't even have to look at
And how to do auto-kerning in FontLab 6. We kind of made it more visual. So if you have a font that doesn't have any kerning, you just select some pairs in the pairs and pairs panel and click the magic button. It will auto-kern them. That's it. So, if I open a font that doesn't have any kerning, or I'll try to just remove kerning completely in this font. So then I may select some stuff and click this button. It will generate pairs that it thinks that are needed here. So that will be UNA in this case.
Is that a new kerning algorithm?
Yeah, that is funny. That's a good question. It's kind of funny story. I tried to reproduce some of the already defined kerning in typical, in quotes, typical serif and typical sans serif font. So my goal was to create algorithm that will just recreate the kerning that originally was defined for the font. And I did it by combining two algorithms. So I was using the algorithm from FontLab VI, slightly fixed and adjusted and improved. And we also had an algorithm from Fontographer. So what you see now, it's a weighted average between Fontop and Fontographer auto-kerning algorithms that somehow produce a good results. So for that two fonts that I was experimenting with, I can't remember which they are. It works quite well. So the difference was like less than 5%, I think, between most of the key pairs. But it's kind of conservative. So it will not add a pair if it's not needed. So it only kerns pairs that are absolutely needed to be kerned.
So, what's the threshold? Is it
Yeah,
like
there is
10
a
units or
threshold. It
something?
will not make like 5-unit kerning pair. You need to do it by hand.
I have a question about the classes. You produce it automatically, I think,
Classes?
I hope. Classes.
Yeah, it's done automatically by
Basically, the link
How can it make automatically?
Let me try to do it. I have no idea what is the current state of that magic, but I'll try to remove all the classes in this font, and then I'll try to generate kerning classes. So we'll see how it goes. So we have
Go to A, please. Capital A.
capital A. Okay, let me find it. Oops, sorry, it's somehow in Russian. Yep. So that is A.
So you don't make
And
exceptions.
that is
yeah.
A. Well, I just generated classes, so if I do...
Without exception.
Yeah,
A with everything possible.
this one doesn't have any kerning now. I killed all the classes and I killed all the kerning. So what I have now, I have automatically generated classes for the kern. To my taste, they are better than I can do by hand.
You know, in German language, capital T, we like all the reses, we make exceptions. Capital T with all the reses.
Yeah, you see? Just choose
T first and all the reses.
Oh, T first.
T first. Yeah.
Oh, and okay.
It's fine.
O-direses. No, I think O-direses basically would it lowercase O, yeah, capital T and then lowercase O-direses.
Yes.
I'm not. We need to have a look at. I know where you're heading. Basically, that sometimes the analysis of the shapes themselves.
That's
is
my question.
Fine, but sometimes.
That's my question. If you analyze,
Well,
Basically,
make
like an
one
automatic
or not.
exception maker. Yeah.
Yeah, but currently, when it deals with a lowercase character, it will only look for the distance between baseline, slightly adjusted baseline and slightly adjusted x height. So it will calculate look on the left and right side just in that range. So yeah, if you have, there could be a problem, but
Well, in a way,
actually what we're thinking about is automatic exception maker that that I can't show it now. It's still not ready.
Nice.
So could you say a few words about the wrap, or how the metrics, or the window, which is the Glyph window / metrics window / kerning window, there are these two things that basically, there is a point size and there is a zoom, and then there's also a wrapping mechanism.
So currently there is no wrapping, so my text is just linear, but I can.
So you could insert a line break there by just pressing space, or in the sidebar you could enter \n. But if we activate text wrap auto, then it will automatically wrap the window.
There is a third mode that is quite funny.
But before you show okay, so this is huge, so maybe you can reduce the point size a bit. Right, so this is basically, the table wrap is basically, you can enter text and it puts each one into a square, which just, when you're designing or working with heavily overlapping glyphs and the navigation, sometimes you just want to look at the glyphs themselves and just fix them without these overlaps, so you don't have to select some nodes that are from the other glyph. This is just a quick way to do it. But generally, no wrap or auto wrap, or manual wrapping and automatic wrapping. And especially with the automatic wrapping, that point size that you can choose does matter.
Other questions? Anybody? So my other question is there one particular thing that we haven't talked about that doesn't even have to be related to spacing and kerning that people would be particularly eager to see? So there's something else that you're curious about that you've been waiting for? Wow, that monitor was really screwed up.
That's not me.
Yeah, no, I know.
We have the clear type rasterizers built into FontLab VI, and
Ooh, yeah.
Questions, comments, dreams and wishes, please.
Yeah, when will it be available? We are carefully not making any statements about availability. I think it's safe to say it won't be this month. But
it's gradual. I mean, the public previews that we're publishing, of course, are sort of gradually improving, and you're most welcome. I mean, I must also say, it is critical that we, if you want to test and report either crashes or problems, that is really critical also in, getting it to a shippable product, because in a way, some problems that aren't discovered will stay there for, forever until the...
One of the most difficult things sometimes to test is the lack of tutorials. So that's...
Yes, so we're working very actively on documentation right now, and this is absolutely
actually,
right.
That brings up something I just wanted to point out. In fact, I have currently open job or set of jobs, really. I wrote up 3 job descriptions, but ideally, we want one person who could do several part-time jobs, as it were. And one of them is documentation, another one is testing, and documentation, testing, and support. But right now, it's mostly documentation and testing. So we also reshuffled some of our own internal stuff. So more of us are spending more time on documentation right now. I was going back and forth and writing bits of documentation while working on some of the presentation today. It's like, oh, this is not adequately documented. Anyhow, so if you're interested in additional work, just come talk to me afterwards.
Yeah, it seems like we have the second job announcement of the day. So, yeah, if you're looking for a job, come to TYPO Labs, and people are hiring, and you can get something. Well, TYPO Labs is, FontLab is one of them. So, thank you guys for the explanation, the insights, and the solving the things and answering the questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.